Hey everybody, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth, as always, with ideas and insights, what to pay attention to when you are getting ready or in the process of growing and scaling your business, because chances are what gets you here is not what's going to get you to the next level. So it's June 21st, that's the summer solstice, and that's awesome good stuff. And it's almost the beginning of Q3. So this is really the key time for growth. And so that means it's time to optimize what's working and also look at your 2024 plan and kind of make a plan for how you could do it even better. So what's working, how to reprioritize. And, I hope you really come from a place where you made a great 2024 plan, and now you just have to kind of tweak things, dial them in, like I said, reprioritize, and make sure that you are focusing on the right stuff that's actually pushing the needle for you. So, as always, when you're embarking on strategic planning, you have to ask yourself some fundamental questions to get on the right page here, where you can make really good reprioritization happen, and where you are sure that you are looking at the right things that will help you turn things around. So you have to look at, what was your goal when you made your plan for 2024? If, for instance, your goal was you were going to get to 10 million and you're only at 3, well, then we're missing the boat a little bit, and then we have to make some adjustments. So you have to look at what was your goal initially and be honest with yourself. And then, where are you right now? Of course, you have to know that. And the other, being honest with yourself, is really looking at what the obstacles have been for you to get where you thought you might get if things were going really well, right? So that's your 2024 goal. You looked at, all right, so what are going to be the optimal numbers if things are going well? So what have been your obstacles so that you can get where you need to go? So you want to look at, is it that you didn't have enough leads coming in? Is it that you haven't been taking care of your existing clients, so your LTV, your lifetime value of your clients is not where it should be? Have you not been really focusing on automations and efficiencies? Is your team not performing the way it needs to? So you really need to be honest with yourself and kind of earmark, what are the things that have been keeping you from getting to the goal you thought you might be able to get, right? And then your next step after that is to prioritize what to fix next. And that's always a big one, because if you step wrong in that, you're going to look at the wrong KPIs and you're not going to get to that goal again. So a lot of times what I hear is we need to get more leads in, or we need to make more sales. And while that might look like the problem on the surface, the bigger problem may be that your profit margins aren't high enough. So you can keep pushing leads and sales, but if your margins aren't big enough, well, it's going to feel like you're going nowhere fast and you're spinning your wheels all the time, and it's exhausting, but you're not really getting the output from your input. So you have to look at, what do we really need to do? And for many businesses, it's fix margins first. Not necessarily push more leads, but also, are we taking care of the leads that we're getting in the best way possible? So we're maximizing the value of every single lead. Is our sales process dialed in a way where we're actually converting the leads, right? So you're seeing what I'm talking about. So most of the time you have to really look at profit margins, sales conversions, the way you're pushing your leads, and the way that you're taking care of your leads. So you have to decide, like, what's the next thing that I need to fix so that I can get much better outcomes. And then, of course, we have to get specific. Q3 is coming up. That's a really good time to focus. So what are our next steps right now? And then, of course, you have to translate those steps into a really good Q3 plan that you set up at a high level for your team. And then you meet with your team and you workshop that plan so that you collaborate on the way that that plan is going to play out, so that they have a hand in it, that they have responsibility in it, that they have ownership in it, and that everybody understands ultra clear what the KPIs are, what the company strategy is, and how it relates to them, and how they have a hand in playing this out, right? This is like, if you make any change, if that's not happening, if you make any change this next quarter, it needs to be that one, because without making that change, nothing else is going to work. So you have to ask yourself, right? You want growth. Most of y'all do, but are your systems up for it? So are you set up? Is your infrastructure set up? Is your team set up? Are your automation set up? Are your systems set up? Are your processes set up to actually facilitate that, to enable that? And are you up for that? And, consciously you might be like, of course I'm up for that. That's exactly what I want. But if you're not scaling yourself as the CEO of your business, so that means none of those old habits that keep you from growing, but actually really focusing on strategy, on growth, on only delivering to the company what you're best to deliver at. So those are all the things where you have to get, again, really honest with yourself, and you have to look at, what do I need to do as the CEO to get out of my own way, to get out of everybody else's way, so everybody can do the best they possibly can, right? So the other part, of course, is that when you're getting into a phase of hypergrowth, it requires making your business scalable. And, the biggest challenge in that is balancing your quality and your volume. So it's a tough one, because when your volume goes up, when your speed goes up, a lot of times quality goes down. And then, yes, you might be getting more customers, you might be selling more, but you also might be losing customers at the same pace. And you might have, refund requests and blah, 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 because people aren't happy, because things are falling apart, because there's too much pressure and you weren't prepared. So we want to be scaling ready. So you have to review all that stuff before you pour the fuel on the fire, because otherwise it's going to end up being a lot more stress than you banked for, and it's not going to get you the outcome that you want. So you want to look at, what are the processes that we're using right now that need upgrading, and you need to standardize what's possible, right? This is really, really important. You can't grow, you can't go into scaling if you haven't standardized the way you do things, which means like everybody does the most important things, like all the things that truly represent who you are. Everybody has to have a standardized approach to those things. So it's a customer experience that is smooth, that no matter who they talk to, it's in alignment and it's congruent with who you are and what you do and what your mission is and your vision and your values and all that kind of stuff, right? So, of course, for you to be able to do that, you have to really get into a place where you absolutely leverage your time and effort, because as you do this, the demand on you in terms of spending your time strategically is going to be higher and higher. So you don't have time anymore to hang out in the weeds and, hang out in the trenches with your employees and do all that kind of stuff that anybody else could be doing. No, this means that you now really, really have to focus on the 5% of the stuff that only you can do. So we have to start with a few reviews in here. So first you have to review your business model and look at what your scaling levers are. So when you think about this, right, your business model, if it is, say you're in the service industry and it's a hands-on business where, like, if you scale, it just means we need more people executing on this stuff because it's got to be done by people. That means, well, we have to build a pipeline of leaders. So you have to look at who do we already have, who are our A players, who are excellent, who we can keep elevating. So internally promoting so that the greatest people from the inside keep coming up more and more, and they perpetuate what they're already doing well, and they already are entrenched in your standards, your values, your team, your everything that represents who you are, right? So they can easily become the face of your company because they're already practiced in doing that. So we have to build that pipeline of leaders who can build other leaders. So that's what we call having leaders on every level. So also that means that no matter what role they have, they own their projects. And this is like, I preach this all the time because it is one of the most crucial, important steps to your freedom and to your scalability without losing your mind. Because you can't be the one who's watching everybody anymore. You have surpassed that level. So for you to keep your sanity and get your time back and really focus on what you should be focusing on, it means absolutely you have to be able to trust your team. They have to be autonomous. They have to be able to be self-led. They have to be in alignment and congruence with your vision, and they have to know exactly how they fit into it and how they participate and drive company strategy, right? So this is the only way is when you're scaling, when you're growing, that you can do this where you know you're not working 24/7, and even if you were 24/7 working 24/7 at some point, that's not going to be possible anymore as well. So making sure that your business model is dialed in for this level of growth that you want. And then the second thing, of course, is you have to address the 6 biggest problems that small business owners are experiencing right now. So one we've already talked about a little bit is balancing quality and growth for volume. So you got to make sure that you automate what you can. So instead of your team's time being sucked up by mundane, boring stuff that they can't really excel in, it means now we have to automate things so that they can focus on strategy and actually deliver much higher value to you. So that means also that you have to be sure that you track KPIs, the meaningful KPIs that let us know, is our quality on par with our volume, with quantity, right? So we have to make sure that quality doesn't slip. So you have to identify the KPIs that tell you that, and you have to track those, because otherwise everything's going to fall apart. So very, very important. So that's number one, making sure that you have that balance between quality and quantity. Then, of course, the always remaining challenge is recruiting. So, you know, the quality of team that you have and the size team that you have is your automatic limiter to where you can go in your business, right? So if you don't have the quality of team, you can't level up. If you don't have enough people, you can't level up. So you have to keep looking at, how do I build that pipeline of recruits who keep coming in and who keep enabling us to do more work with the same level of quality, right? So as you do that, as you look at recruiting, you have to ask yourself, am I really ready? Am I really ready to hire more, or am I really ready to hire up? Because that's the next thing. It's not just about hiring more, it's also about hiring at a higher level, hiring up, finding more experts, getting executives on the team, getting more strategy focused people on the team who can help you lead this business so that you can actually focus on the CEO stuff, right? So we have to look at, are you ready? And what that means is really you have to understand what your org chart needs to look like going forward. So you have to future cast and understand, like, how do I need to build my org chart so that we can do more going forward, that we can level up, that we can grow without a hitch. So you have to have a good plan in place for that, because that means we have to have that pipeline of the right people in place who can come in when we need them, right? So we're not ever hiring bodies. We're not ever having to hire out of need, because that generally means you get the wrong people on the bus, right? So are you hiring ready? Are you ready? What's your readiness quotient? So understanding really what your org chart should look like, what roles and responsibilities are, how they contribute to company strategy, what the strategy is that they're owning. So you need to know all that kind of stuff. Now, for the actual getting people in, well, you can follow all the traditional ways of doing this, and LinkedIn and Monster and Glassdoor and all that kind of stuff that's out there. That's all great, but that's really your last resort. What you really should have been doing is building that pipeline, building that network of people who are ready to come in when you need them. And that is something that takes conscious effort, and that's ongoing, and that's a consistent thing that either you or your recruiting focused person and leader in your team owns all the time, right? That can't ever go away. You can't ever let that slip, because you'll exactly get into that spot that I was just talking about, where suddenly you need somebody and you don't have anybody ready, right? So you absolutely need to be taking care of your network. You need to nurture your network, right? And when you're hiring, I would really encourage you to let go of thinking so much of skill set. I mean, of course, they have to be able to do the job, otherwise you have a problem. But more important than anything is always company fit, is always team fit. Because think about longevity here. Because when you're not hiring for culture fit, you're going to hire somebody who's not going to be happy, who your existing team's not going to be happy with. So that means they're going to bounce anyway. So you might as well do yourself a favor and really look at, who's the right person, not just from a skill set perspective, but also from just an overall culture fit, so that we are hiring somebody who's actually ready to grow with us, who's the right fit for that, right? So talked about the balance between quality and growth, recruiting, and then of course your time management. And this is, with our customers, we see this over and over and over and over and over. They all come in with the best intentions. They really want growth, but they're not willing to let go of their old habits, and their old habits are what's keeping them stuck in doing things the same way over and over, and they can't get anywhere. So you might think more people mean more problems, but that's only the case if you haven't set it up right. If you haven't put a foundation in place that helps you manage the system. Because remember, it's not you managing all these people. It's you managing a system that manages all these people. But you have to set up that foundational system first, so that you can manage it to manage the people. Otherwise, it will mean more people, more problem, more business, more problems, right? This is definitely something that you have to get really clear about before you push the needle. So think about what I said a little bit earlier. We really want to get to that place where you have leaders at every level in place, and they're all working an existing process. They have systems in place, and you have a training machine, basically. So we get the people in, they're growth and leadership minded. You set them up with the right foundation so that they're the right people, they're doing the right thing, but then we always have to keep training them. So what they're doing becomes second nature. They're always improving, they're always getting better, they're always striving for better results, which means when the going gets tough and it gets stressful, it's second nature what they do. And they're not going to panic, they're not going to fall apart under pressure, they're going to perform, right? When you ask any sports coach, it's about making sure that people got it. So when you really need them to show up, they do it without fail. And if you don't train your people enough, that's always where the break is going to be. So make sure that you get that really tied down. And then we're looking at, yes, I know you're already busy as all heck, and the thought of putting more time into training might not be what you love. And yes, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is going to take more time on the front end, but then that's what produces your freedom, your flexibility, your time on the back end if you do it right. So you must put in the time for training. But the other thing that also happens is when you do that and you keep empowering, right? You're not the one who brings the answers. You ask the questions. You help them. You teach them how to think. You help them become strategists. So when you're empowering them like that, they become strategic themselves. They become owners of their outcomes, which means when you really need them to perform without you, when you're not around, they can. And that's, again, where your freedom lives and where your ability to grow and scale lives. So you have to do that. You have to help them to become strategic on their own. You have to help them become owners of their outcomes. And when you do all that, that sets you free to have more time to do the CEO work. So now, we call it the power hour, where every single day you take at least an hour and you focus on the most important stuff, driving leads, making sure that you take care of your customers so that they're happy, that you look at how can we keep driving automations and efficiency just to make this company better. So that's like what you absolutely have to focus on every single day, and that's what you do in your power hour. So that is managing your time. And as I said last week, to me, it's not time management, it's really results management, because the way you set up your time will absolutely determine your results. And that doesn't mean you have any more time, you're just spending it more effectively. And then the fourth point here is your CSAT, your customer satisfaction. That we always have to measure and improve that. And then it also has to be something that is part of your standards, your core values, that is part of what you preach to your team every single day, because it has to be something that they believe in, that they inherently go to, so that they're always proactive, that they're always looking at how can I make the customer experience even better? How can we communicate better? How can we set up expectations in a more congruent way? If there's any issues, let's resolve that before it even happens. So people aren't, sweeping things under the rug. They're not hiding when they made mistakes. They're proactively addressing it so that your customer experience is pretty seamless. And the more they understand that the connection with your clients is so important, and that's what drives the business, the more they're feeling it, the more your customers are going to feel it. And that's the most important thing. And then another thing we've been noticing is that a lot of our clients who've been in business for a long time, and they're very good at what they're doing, but they've been in the grind for a long time. So they're kind of losing the passion for what they're doing. And of course, if you do, they do. And, if many of you have businesses that are a little bit more seasonal, where maybe in the summer you're a little bit slower, or for some of you in the summer it's a lot more busy, it depends on what you're doing. But you have to keep reminding your team that it doesn't matter what time of year it is, we're all focused on the same stuff. So you have to talk up your vision, your purpose, and your impact. So everybody is focused on that, no matter what season you're in. And that means celebrating your wins, having those weekly action review meetings where you look at what's working, where you workshop together, where you get everybody fired up and engaged so that they show up at their very best. And that also means empowering them to operate at least at a level 2 delegation, so that you're driving autonomy, that they're bringing ideas to the table, that they're being creative, which means you're going to have a much more alive team that is going to drive much better results. So this is really, Q3 is the time where you start strategic planning. And that's when you have to ask yourself, how do I have to lead this? And how would I lead this? And I love this question. I always pitch this question to our clients, is like, how would you lead this company if you were at 10x your size? Because what that does is it completely destroys all your patterns, because none of your patterns that you have right now pretty much would be working anymore. You'd have to look at, how do I rebuild this? How do I tear this down and rebuild it in a way where it allows me to 10x my companies with the same habits that I have right now? So part of that is building leaders that really own their initiatives, right? I've been saying it, leaders at every level, everybody owns the initiatives, and they're always training for that. And that also means that they take ownership for this level 2 delegation. So they're owning entire workflows, they're owning entire projects. There's no following up because everybody knows exactly how what they do fits into the entire company strategy and how it's so important that they actually deliver, so they do. So overall, we need to look at this Q3 effort as you have to level yourself up, you have to level up your team. That means we have to make sure we really streamline our processes and up-level those. We are coming from this perspective of how do we 10x what we're doing with with better methods, what we have to do. Everybody really needs to understand what the KPIs are, right? So I've been saying this for a while. You really have to teach every single person on your team business acumen. So they have to understand what the entire company strategy is, how what they do fits into the company strategy, and what the KPIs are that govern these strategies and how they can affect them, right? Because they can't own things if they don't know how to affect better outcomes. So what are the KPIs that they pay attention to? How can they affect them? And, when you're looking at bringing more talent in, that's always tricky now more than ever. And so you have to really figure out, it's like, how do you distinguish yourself against the rest of the world? Why are you so great? Why would people want to work for you? And there's nothing more powerful than bringing clarity to the table, having really clear job descriptions, having really clear goals and expectations, having a tight plan in place that people can follow, that they understand when they come on board, where you have really good onboarding practices, where they keep getting the training that they need so that they can immediately feel like they're on purpose, they're in the right place, they are growing, they're delivering value. So they actually want to hang out with you. They want to stay there. You're not going to have this revolving door because people are turning over because they feel like they came into this messy house and they don't want to stay, right? So giving them feedback, helping them grow, and helping them develop their career. That's really your job as a CEO, is to help your leaders grow in their careers and teaching your leaders how to grow other leaders to do the same thing with the rest of the team. This has to be a systemic thing. This can't just be a thing that happens at the top. And part of that is also, of course, taking care of your culture, where you have a clear vision in place that you preach, where everybody understands what the company purpose is and how that matches up with their own purpose, what the impact is that you're delivering. Like I said, where they have autonomy over the projects that they own, and where it's a culture where you acknowledge wins, where you give feedback, where there's a lot of transparency and honesty. So everybody always knows, how successful am I being? Where am I at? Am I winning or am I failing? Do I have gaps that I need to address, right? Everybody, there needs to be this feeling of like, I know if I'm being successful, and if I'm not, I'm getting the help that I need to improve this. So you want to be this high touch company where you love on your team, because here's the deal: when you love on your team and they feel like you're supporting them like crazy and you're there for them and they have everything they need to keep growing, well, they're going to give that same love and attention to your customers. And that's really what you need now more than ever, because that CSAT, your customer satisfaction score, when you think about why it's so important, in the past, this might have been something that was just kind of a matter of course, but people feel super disconnected now, and there's more and more automation everywhere. So there is less and less feeling like I matter. And your customers really need that from you. They need more of that connection. They need more like the feeling of that you actually care about them as a customer. That's why they keep coming back. That's why they would pay more. That's why they would, if something goes wrong, they'd forgive you. So think about this as really emphasizing the value of your customer to your team, helping them understand this is the lifeblood of the company. This is more important than anything that we do, is taking care of our customers. So you really have to think about, again, like the leadership model that you have. Would this work if my company were 10x its size? So this is really taking taking yourself out of the role that you have right now and becoming the CEO. So that part of that means that you have to have somebody on your team who is growing to replace you in your current role, right? So this is the most important thing about up-leveling. You have to have somebody on your team who can replace you in your current role and function, because I will bet you what you're doing right now is not true CEO work. You're probably stuck in the weeds working on your business far more than you should. And you can't grow like that, right? So having somebody who you're grooming and training to take over your current role so that you can go into the next role, and that would be the CEO role. So you have to really understand, what would that be? If somebody replaced you in your current role, what would you be doing? What would be your focus? What would you be driving? And then always teaching strategy, teaching leadership. And everybody on your team really needs to have that strategic thinking and that project management mindset, which means that everybody is thinking at a higher level, is thinking more holistically, so that you don't have these disconnected actions from people and that means things fall through the cracks, don't get done, or people are double doing, which is a ton of waste of time and energy. So this is what has to be different in Q3. You have to think about, what do I have to do? What does my team have to do differently so that you all win together? So make sure that you drive the clarity on your team, that you give everybody the understanding what the organization is about, that they get how you're going to help them to develop their careers, how they're going to be autonomous, how they're going to have flexible schedules when possible, and really the connection that's in your team, the empathy that you give them, and the growth that you make possible for them, so that they really want to be a highly performing part of your team. So I hope this helps. Go through this again and make sure that you address those 6 planning questions for Q3, that you go through the 6 biggest challenges that business owners have right now and look at how you can address that in your business specifically. And then I'm going to drop a resource in the post so that you can, I just released the book that it goes into all this in detail, and you can check it out, download it for free, get into our environment, and we can help you take care of all these aspects so that you can really focus on how you can grow more effectively in Q3, Q4, and then of course, it's kind of funny to talk about, but 2025 will be right around the corner. So use the rest of this year to get everything straightened out, everything optimized, so that it's only logical that you're going to start crushing it. So anyway, have a great week, and I'll see you next time.